Today I'll be discussing solving equations. Two-step equations are just equations that can be solved in two steps. But first, I will discuss the working backwards method to solve problems. As you recall, the working backwards method is a problem-solving technique we can use in the following problem. If you need further instruction, please refer to Maths Online for help. I'm thinking of a number. If I multiply by 5 and then add 2, the result will be 32. What was my original number? We start with the end result of 32 and work our way backwards to answer the question using the inverse operation for each step. So we begin with 32. It states add 2, so we're going to subtract 2, giving us a result of 30. It says if I multiply by 5, so I'm going to divide by 5 since it's the inverse operation. 30 divided by 5 is 6. The original number should be 6. Let's check. I'm thinking of a number 6. Multiplying by 5 is 30. Adding 2 is 32. Now how does this assist with two-step equation? Consider the problem we just answered. If we use the pronumeral b for the original number and work our way through the problem from the beginning, we end up with, I'm thinking of a number b. If I multiply by 5, I get 5b, which means 5 times b. Then adding 2, 5b plus 2, the result will be 32. I now have an equation for that particular problem. If you notice, the b is sort of hanging out with the 5. And in the original problem, we had to get rid of the 2 first. So let's do that now. We subtract 2 from both sides of an equation. The 2's cancel each other out. And on the left-hand side, we're left with 5b. And on the right-hand side, 32 minus 2 is equal to 30. b is being multiplied by 5, so we do the inverse operation of dividing by 5. 5 over 5 equals 1, so b is equal to 30 divided by 5, which is 6. You just solved your first equation. As you can see, this is just like the problems you learned earlier, just using an equation instead. Solving two-step equations. Steps to success: highlight the pronumeral, see what it's hanging out with, get rid of the other number, and then isolate the pronumeral. So in this case, we highlight the pronumeral, which is b. We see that it's hanging out with the 2. We have to get rid of the other number, which is the 5. So instead of adding 5, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. The plus 5 minus 5 cancel each other out, and we're left with 2b on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we're left with 35 minus 5, which is 30. Now b is being multiplied by 2. Inverse operations, divide by 2 on both sides, remember. 2 over 2 is equal to 1b, or just b. And b is equal to 30 divided by 2, which is 15. Now substituting the 15 back into the original problem, 2 times 15 is 30. 30 plus 5 is 35, so we have the correct answer. Let's try another one. We have 5a minus 17 is equal to 30. Okay, highlighting the a, the pronumeral, we notice a is hanging out with 5. So we must get rid of the minus 17. To get rid of a minus 17, we add both sides by 17. Notice they're lined up on either side of the equal sign. Minus 17 plus 17 crosses off. We're left with 5a on the left-hand side and 30 plus 17, which is 47 on the right-hand side. Always think left-hand side, right-hand side. A is now being multiplied by 5, so we must do the opposite, which is divide both sides by 5. Always think inverse operation. 5 over 5 is equal to 1, or 1a. Lining up the equal sign, a equals, now this is 47 divided by 5. You can either use your calculator, or 5 goes into 47 9 times, with 2 left over, so it equals 9 2/5. If you wanted to substitute that back in to the original problem with the calculator, you would get an answer of 30. 5 times 9 2/5 minus 17 does indeed equal 30. Now this one looks a little bit different, but you solve it the same way. Highlighting the pronumeral t. T is being multiplied by 5 first, so we must get rid of the minus 6. Adding 6 to both sides. in the correct placement underneath the 40. 40 plus 6 equals 46. 46 equals 5t. The 6's both canceled out. T is now being multiplied by 5, so we must do the opposite, which is divide both sides by 5. The 5 over 5 is equal to 1t. 5 goes into 46, up 9 times, 1 left over, so it's 9 1/5 equals t. Looking at steps to success, highlight the pronumeral, see what it's hanging out with, get rid of the other number, and isolate the pronumeral. Make sure your equal signs are all lined up, and whatever you do to one side, you do to the other.